It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Flying down from Nova Scotia today.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
I have a dream that all men are created equal.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Doom Nation, what's up, guys? We are back after our week-long vacation, and boy, what a week did we choose to take off. Doom Nation, you were listening to the Two Doom Men podcast, and as always, it's Skaggs and your captain. Skaggs, what's up? How are you doing today?
Good. I'm feeling refreshed somewhat.
Really? Are you?
Yeah. Somewhat honestly.
Yeah.
I think everybody does need a break from this shit every once in a while. Especially from like the social media aspect of it, which I did for the most part take a tremendous break, especially from Twitter. So I will tell you, I laughed yesterday because it was Sunday and I get those notifications on my phone. And it's like your screen time was down 55% over the last week. I mean, that's all Twitter right there, pretty much for me, especially. So, I mean, we had we wanted to take a break, just because shit's like too much lately, man, with the death and the killing and all this shit, and then we kind of have also like a personal tragedy in our own lives that occurs during the weeks. I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but sometimes there really is no escaping just how shitty life can be. Sometimes you got to try and remain positive and make sure you take care of yourself, brush your hair. Shit like that.
As Kuj would say.
Yeah.
I do feel a little refreshed. But still, I kept reading. I kept, I was, checking things out. It was nice that we didn't have to talk about it. We had a great camping trip. We unfortunately had a tragedy midweek, and then we had a great barbecue over the weekend. Honor all those who have fallen and stuff from Memorial Day. But definitely if our other podcast friends are listening and stuff like that, eventually you got to take, a 2-minute timeout and just step away because it's needed.
Yeah. But when the real bullets start flying, like you're not going to get a chance to take a break. So
it's funny you said at the barbecue, you were like, taking this week off was needed, but you were also like, I don't think things are ever going to be this normal again. Like it's all like just chaos from here on out.
Yeah. Maybe you should take a break while you still can. Let's just put things that way. I mean, like the bullets are flying literally pretty much, here and there, which is insane. And we'll get into again, unfortunately, the mass shooting stuff is going on and everything that has to go with that. It's not going to be fun. No fun way to cover stuff like this and the insane, backlash or whatever you want to call it that happens. But I thought we would start with a white pill, right? And if you've watched a lot of our episodes, I think we've had 4 episodes or 3 or 4 where we have dealt with, talked to, had Lance in this chair right next to me with the Libertarian Party, Mises Caucus, and people affiliated with them and whatnot. We went to convention and all that stuff. White pill of the week, the Libertarian Party, Mises Caucus. They took over the Libertarian Party. They had over this weekend in Reno, Nevada. They were calling it the Reno Reset. Their whole goal, which we've tried to help here and there by showing people what the Mises Caucus is about. Their whole goal was essentially, look, the Libertarian Party fucking sucks. They ain't done shit for liberty in the 50 years that they've existed. And it's because their messaging has sucked. Lately, they've gotten woke. My theory was they were controlled opposition. I think I mentioned this when we were there. Is there a possibility this party is controlled opposition? And that could possibly be why they kept trying to like rig things against the Mises Caucus. So they had their national convention. They took over a majority of all positions in the Libertarian Party. Angela McArdle is Mises Caucus person. She is now going to be the chair of the Libertarian Party. She's very smart, very liberty-minded like us, like a lot of our friends are. So like the right people are now in place and they have the control of the national party. They have that little tiny platform. It is small, I'm not going to say it's not, but it is the largest third party there is. And they're going to try and do something now, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. We still got how many years until the next presidential run? A lot. There is a long way to go. But your white pill should be a bunch of people were pissed off, didn't like the way things were going. They had a better idea. So they said, fuck it. We're going to try and change things through the system. They did it. They really did. Now we're going to see, we're going to remain skeptical, of course, of everything, as we always do. I like the Mises Caucus and everything that they stand for, Dave Smith and all of them. Let's congratulate Lance and Steve Dincher, all those guys. They worked fucking hard the past couple months, past years or so. Let's see what happens. That's just what I have to say.
This is their opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now that they're
it'd be interesting to see, like, if they do start making some type of headway and we kind of have an in, and then like we start realizing, like, conspiracy minded me, like what like bullshit is really there. Like, you get somebody on the inside and they're like, wow, they are straight up are screwing us. You know what I mean? Like we get like some type of inside scoop into what's really going on with these political parties.
Maybe. I think a big problem with the Libertarian Party, and I forgot who at the convention told me this, but they're like, a lot of these fucking people, they treated this shit like Comic-Con. Like, oh yeah, I'm a libertarian. I'm gonna go to the convention every year and I'm gonna hang out with other libertarian people. And it was like 30 people. You know what I mean? And they thought it was like cool, like a cool, like novelty thing to do. And then the Mises Caucus comes on along and is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? The government is insane. We need to do something about this.
Yeah.
People didn't like that because their Comic-Con fun thing was getting, like uprooted in a sense. But I agree with them, right? We have to do something. Let's try and do something.
Whole party was doing nothing
for different folks, right?
Yeah.
This is one avenue of political change that people are trying to do. And I think a big thing that the Libertarian Party is going to do now, and the caucus is going to do now, Cap, me and you have talked about this a lot lately, and we just talked about this in the last episode. It's like, if we're going to enact, and we're going to talk about this a lot throughout this episode, I think, like, if we're going to fix things, culture has to be fixed, right? There's no magic wand. As much as some people want to believe Trump might be the magic wand or whatever, there is no magic wand. The government is not going to magically fix itself and stop becoming less tyrannical. That can only change if a lot of people really want things to change and like actually value freedom and liberty, because we're going to get into that in this episode. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are advocating against their own rights because they're scared and they're fearful. The only way if we're going to change that shit is if we enact cultural change ourselves. These guys are trying to do that. That's what their whole messaging is about. I was listening to, they did a live Part of the Problem episode while they were there with Dave, and like, that is the goal. They're not going to sell you here. We're going to magically win and we're going to become president and take over, and we're going to be able to wave the wand and get rid of the CIA because they're probably going to kill us if we tried to do that. They're like, however, if we could convince like 100 million people in the country to value freedom, we might stand a chance to actually change some stuff.
And to be honest with you, I think it might be a better platform for people to announce that they value freedom, because in today's culture, look, there's a lot of gun lovers out there. I'm only saying that because that's the topic of today's episode. There's a lot of Trump supporters out there. There's a lot of moderate Democrats. There's a lot of moderate Republicans. There's a lot of, hardcore Republicans in the corporate world, but none of them talk about how they want freedom out of fear from the backlash of what today's culture is. So I think on a smaller platform, you give people that opportunity to work with, even though you might not be a libertarian, but you might be a moderate Republican. And trust me, if you're a moderate Republican, you're going to like what, libertarians have to say. It might finally be some type of a bigger platform that you could come out and go, you know what? I do value freedom. I do value the Constitution. I do want my personal space. I don't want to be injected with this. I want to keep my guns. I want to carry guns and not get that insane amount of backlash that we've been seeing since, like January 6th. God forbid you show up at a rally. It's almost, like a double-edged sword where you need to show up and protest, but are the feds doing it? Are the feds going to be there? Is there going to be a false flag when you show up? Oh, maybe we shouldn't do it. You still got to show up and protest because you got to roll the dice. Otherwise, you're just going to keep losing.
Right. But is it, otherwise the goal, what are you gonna do? Just lay down and die, which some people are advocating for here. Yeah, man. I mean, you're right. You make a great point. Yeah. Dare say that the Libertarian Party, like it as a platform, you have more freedom to say whatever you want, right? I mean, it is the Libertarian Party, and what you're saying is correct, and what you're saying is exactly what the Mises Caucus, or at least what they're saying, is they're going to do. Is they're going to use now all the resources that the National Party had, the accounts, the this, the that, whatever, everything. They're going to just say the right shit now. Things that are actually, they're going to say things that actually matter, like that value freedom. The Libertarian Party, the National Party, didn't do anything the past 2 years.
No marketing.
Man. We had no marketing.
They had Ron Swanson. That was it.
Ron Swanson. That was it. He was the premier libertarian. He wasn't even fucking real. You know what I mean?
He's not a real person.
Yeah. And what's insane is we went through the most tyrannical portion of American life we ever did, probably in the past 2 years, where the government went insane and was trying to fucking inject you with stuff. And the Libertarian Party had an opportunity and they didn't do anything. Right. So that's the way I look at it. Now we have an opportunity to actually do something. I hope that I wish them well. We'll cover it. Maybe we'll have some of them on again, talk to them about it. So that is a white pill. There are people out there trying to do stuff, and ain't just all negative and misery and whatnot.
Yes.
And
now on to the negative misery.
Yeah. I mean, back on the NPCs are mad again show.
Yeah.
That's what this has essentially become the last 3 or 4 weeks.
I know. It's just, I got to say, though, it gives me hope. And I've said this several times. The NPCs are switching out control chips so fast, they don't know which way is up. 1 week, it's my body, my choice. That, I want to kill kids. I want to kill kids. And then it's the next week. We can't kill kids. We got to save them. We got to get rid of the Constitution so we can't kill kids anymore. It's very odd to see the party be so in favor of murdering children up to 9 months of pregnancy. And like we said in the past, if you gave them free range, you could return your child before their 18th birthday and they just incinerate them. Now just be like, we can't kill anybody. My body, my choice, but go get the vaccine, mandatory vaccines. They're switching out these cards pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, if you just heard what the captain said, you might think he's an absolutely insane person with just very crude speaking. But I mean, that's what these people are fucking doing and saying, I hate to generalize. Flex. It is a weird flex, right? When the kids, before they've left their mom, kill them. And then afterwards, no, we gotta, that is, look, man, like, my position has kind of changed on abortion and whatnot, but because I've had a kid, obviously, it does change your perspective. Like, life is precious. As much as we talk shit about other humans here, like, all humans are precious, even the ones that are evil. You know what I mean? Like, everybody deserves a chance. So, like, killing children, bad, no matter the circumstance. There's that question all the time. They've asked people, like, if you could go back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? Right? That's like I don't know. Have you heard this question before?
I've heard it. Yeah.
Famous question before. And they asked that to people, and a lot of people are like, hell yeah, I'd go back and kill baby Hitler. Of course I would. I mean, if you did, would that make you a moral fucking person?
Right. You still killed the baby.
You killed a baby and he didn't become Hitler yet. I mean, maybe it saved the world of all this, this terrible shit that he did. But I don't know, man. It's just
the way I look at it, the things I've learned over the past several years in my personal life, not to get religious, I won't even use like God's plan, the universe's plan. If you had killed Hitler, there would have been another Hitler. If you had killed Hitler, there could have been there might have not been World War II, but World War I might have been the final solution for all we know. Whatever happened in the universe path, it's ridiculous to say this, but Hitler was required for the universe path forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, so even if you went back in time and changed the timeline, there would be other repercussions in the future. 50-50. Yeah, we might be in this beautiful utopia because World War II never happened, or it might be 10 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, talk about something that could get clipped and taken out of context. Hitler was required for the path to the universe or whatever he said there. But I know what you mean. I do, if you want to get into history real quick, I think, what happened there was a product of World War I. We talked about history a little bit in the last episode, and the after World War I, Germany was down hard on hard times. the Great Depression, etc. They lost bad in World War I, and then they had the I think it was the Treaty of Versailles, which was very restrictive
screwed them over
on Germany, and that's what led a psychopath, person to take over and hypnotize the entire population into some insane fucking thing that they did, which murdered millions of innocent people.
Maybe the question shouldn't be, would you go back and kill baby Hitler? Maybe the question should be, would you go back and prevent World War I? So Germany doesn't get put in this position that produces the product that is Hitler.
Yeah, let's go back to that train car in France, in Versailles, right, where they signed the deal, or the Palace of Versailles, and perhaps we'll sign a fairer deal. Or bygones be bygones, and we'll all live, in the future prosperously and peacefully. Perhaps that's what we should do instead of killing children. Yeah. And that was interesting. I didn't think our conversation was going to go that way.
Nope. The universe in Hitler.
Yeah, man. I mean, what happened obviously in Uvalde, Texas is just fucking horrific.
There's a lot of issues with this, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't have, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to go and rehash the timeline of what this asshole did. I'm not going to mention his name because I think I'm done giving these people any sort of notoriety or anything like that, because that has something to do with it. I think some sort of copycat motive here of people. So we'll talk about the backlash and just
Well, I got a few things. I mean, the Buffalo shooting, we knew everything about this kid right away. We even knew where he purchased his gun from. The Texas shooting, we don't know where he purchased his gun from. He came from a poor family, but drove around in an $80,000 truck, had $5,000 worth of rifles and ammo. Where are you getting this money from? How come there's not the same order of operations of investigating the Buffalo shooter compared to the Texas shooter? On top of it, the kid had mental disorder, and it's something that most politicians will never talk about. I saw a statistic today, and I knew it when I saw it. I should have wrote down the name of the drug, but something like over 60% of mass shooters in the past decade have all been on the same antipsychotic medication.
Yes, that is a common link between all of them. Is almost all of them are on psychoactive medication. Yes, that is
and true. Well, guess what? The government has proven it in the biggest story ever. They are never going to stand up against Big Farm. They're never going to go against Big Pharmaceutical and say, maybe there's a problem with this drug. They'll say everything else before they say that. They'll lock us down because there could be a mass shooting anywhere before they admit that one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and we'll get into a little bit about what the government says here. And I thought we would maybe, however, start with a different government, right? Because I find this fascinating. We have spoken
about this too.
We have spoken about Canada on this show a couple of times, especially when the freedom protest was occurring in Ottawa, right? We covered that in detail. There was no mass shooting in Canada this past weekend or the weekend before that, right? There was mass shootings here. Canada and Justin Trudeau have decided to pass insanely restrictive gun legislation, seemingly out of nowhere. I guess in response to what has occurred here in America, right? So here's a Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, tweeted the other day, 1 Canadian killed by gun violence is too many. That's why we've banned 1,500 types of military-style assault firearms. And that's why today we've introduced legislation to further strengthen gun control in Canada. Thread. Through this legislation, we'll move forward with a national freeze on all handgun ownership. In other words, it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada once this bill becomes law. We'll also increase criminal penalties to combat gun smuggling and trafficking, provide authorities with more tools to investigate firearms crimes, and criminalize the modification of magazines to prevent them from holding more than the legal limit of ammunition. In addition, we'll make sure that people involved in acts of domestic violence or criminal harassment have their firearm licenses taken away. And we'll make sure that those who are considered a danger to themselves or others have to surrender their firearms to authorities. So that is Justin Trudeau. And the big thing, it's all gun control. It's all government clamping down. It's all daddy government. It's coming to protect you. they're way bigger in terms of stuff like that than we are here. There is a very, once they have a culture of people standing up against the government, they crushed it hard, as they showed against the thing. So the big thing I'm taking here is they are banning handguns, essentially. Yeah, I know he's saying there'll be a freeze on handgun ownership. What does that mean to you? I mean, that means they are telling you you cannot own a handgun anymore.
It's funny. Are you good? I don't want to jump in on you.
Yeah, let's
it's funny. They are freezing buying and selling and trading and transferring handguns because if you supported the Freedom Convoy, they froze your bank account. So here is a government that if you don't obey, will take your money away. If something happens in a different country, they will disarm you. This is a very dangerous, slippery slope. If it smells like a trap and it looks like a trap, it probably is a trap. They are essentially, partially, I don't know the extent of the law yet, disarming you. They have no problem messing with your money. What's next? They have no problem forcing vaccines on you. You know, sooner or later, it's, well, your last name starts with a J, so you're not allowed out of your house on Mondays. You know what I mean? You voted against me. We have the records, so you're not allowed to work at a job that makes this much money. They have free range to do whatever they want, and this is a very, very slippery slope. World Economic Forum has their hands in this because Trudeau's their little ass puppet, you know. So it's a scary idea because this is what Democrats truly want to do here in our country. And the other thing he said was, read the end again. If they deem you a threat to yourself or something.
Yes.
What was
in
that,
addition,
the last two?
In addition, we'll make sure that people involved in acts of domestic violence or criminal harassment have their firearm licenses taken away. And we'll make sure that those who are considered a danger to themselves or others have to surrender their firearms to authorities.
Okay. Canada considers you a domestic terrorist for protesting against vaccine mandates. So anybody who was protesting with the Freedom Convoy, no more guns for you.
Are gone. Yep.
Yeah. They're going to determine if you're a threat to people or not. So if you don't really vote their way, because, you know, like social credit systems and stuff like that, they'll make you surrender your guns too.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think the Democrats would love to just disarm Republicans, you know,
of course,
not to make it so left and right, black and white, but you know.
Yeah. The thing is, you know, no pun intended, but Canada is very trigger happy when it comes to totalitarianism, especially in the past couple of years, right?
Trudeau.
I mean,
treasonous piece of shit.
This is wild, you know. They didn't even wait for something to happen in their own country.
Yeah.
You know, it happened over here and they were using it as an excuse for themselves. That is a trigger happy authoritarian regime.
Yeah.
They're not even, you know, if this happened here, I would be less surprised, right? If this sort of, and we'll get into that next, but I mean, nothing happened there. And they're already passing laws like that.
I have my suspicions with the establishment. We know Trudeau's, you know, a corrupt guy. I think this was done to, at a time like this, so everybody could go, well, Joe Biden, look at what Trudeau's doing. Canada's got, remember the psychopath that I used to go to the gym with who was moving to Canada because they had the vaccine and COVID figured out up there? You know, that's what I think the establishment is trying to snowball it into, that a big country like Canada is like, we're taking a stand. We're never going to even let this be an occurrence in our country, just to make America look bad, to have more, you know, firewood for the fire for the gun debate, you know. And then if there's results of less shootings, Biden gets to go, oh, well, look at Canada's results. It's working out great for them. You know?
Right. I mean, you know, they'll probably omit all statistical, you know, analysis before that of shootings, which I'm going to get into in a minute. Dude, another example.
Is it Bernie Sanders' little bar graph?
No, I'll get into it in a minute. But,
dude, that was funny. But go on.
Yeah, I think you're right, of course, right. But I also think there is an aspect of this. I mean, what do you think? Like, you think President Biden and Justin Trudeau haven't had that conversation? Yeah. All these guys are members of the World Economic Forum, right? Like, there is an agenda that they are following, right? And Canada essentially has, like you said, this is going to be used against us in the future as some sort of
Canada is the test dummy,
right? It's the test dummy essentially. But I mean, for them, it was also, hey, it's a great time to get rid of everyone's guns, right? Because there's this thing we can now spin in our favor because it's going to creates an emotional argument. Like we said at the beginning of this, killing kids is awful, right? Doesn't matter how, at least to us. To them, different story, right? But now when it's done this way, they're immediately doing stuff to restrict your rights. So it's a win-win for them. It helps the establishment on our side, and on their side, they ban the guns already when they're already tyrannical to begin with.
And on top of, I mean, look at how they handled COVID. Florida did better than the entire country of Canada. There was the big freedom convoy in Canada. They already disarmed you. So now the second time there's a lockdown, now the second time there's a new pandemic or another emergency that they need to, to squeeze the life out of, you can't defend yourself. The next pandemic or the next, life-changing, event that happens in Canada, Trudeau could just go, okay, that's it. We're coming to your houses and you're getting on the train and you're going to the camps and you can't do nothing about it.
And the best part about that is, guess who's coming to your house to put you on the train? A guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's who's coming. Just to point that out there. Right.
Yep.
One thing I said the past couple of weeks is, you know what? If you want to make and we'll get more into this as this episode goes, like, if you want to make the argument to me that guns kill people, right? They are the tool that does it, and the world would be a better place without them. I agree. Right. The world would be a better place probably without any sort of weapon whatsoever, if weapons didn't exist. So if the government were to come to me and say, look, we have this magic wand, right? And with this magic wand, we're going to wave it. Our guns will disappear. Your guns will disappear. Criminals' guns will disappear. And other foreign nations, their guns also will disappear. What do you think we should do? I say wave that fucking wand and get rid of them all, right? That would honestly be what I say. But no magic wand exists. And everything that Canada is proposing, and what we're going to get into with our own country, what they're proposing, they're not getting rid of their guns.
Yeah.
The government is the police are going to have guns. The military is going to have guns. I tweeted this I think it was today. The largest perpetrator of mass shootings in the world is the United States federal government, right? Where did they do this? In the 21st century, even. And all these wars that we've sent our soldiers over there in Muslim countries to shoot people, right? In Ukraine right now, even $40 billion of fucking weapons. There's not assault rifles, assault rifles in there. No, there are, right? And those are being used to shoot people. It's the state. The state is the largest perpetrator of violence ever. And
they have the monopoly on violence.
The monopoly on violence. Exactly, man. There you go. You're an anarchist. You're on your way. But they're over here. No, give us your right, because you're not smart enough to be an adult to take care of yourself and handle this thing. We have to do it. We have to be in charge of guns. Only us, the people with nukes who are threatening them fucking. You see have you seen the I know it's kind of been buried, but the last 2 weeks, the insane rhetoric around Ukraine where they're fucking threatening nuclear war. Even Joe Manchin, who's supposed to be like the rational Democrat, he's over there on his high horse, like, yeah, fucking, essentially, I don't want to misquote him, but around like he's trying to insinuate we should use nuclear weapons if it comes to that. I mean, those are the people I want to have all the guns. Without a doubt.
Just before I left work earlier, I was on Instagram. And Bernie Sanders put up this bar graph of mass shootings in countries around the world. And USA is at the top, and the bar takes up the whole graph. And then everyone else is smaller. I commented, I said, okay, turn to your security guards and tell them to stop carrying guns.
Drop your weapons.
I'll wait. Yeah, tell them to drop their weapons. But America is the only country in the world that has this many guns. Of course, there's going to be this many shootings. Look at Chicago. Look at all these Democrat-ran states that aren't a problem. Chicago doesn't have a gun problem, but yet there's hundreds of shootings right now happening tonight. If you change the headline of, people killed by guns to people killed by poisonous snakes, Australia would have this big giant bar across it. Change the headline to people who've died from starvation and malnutrition. Africa would have this big giant line across it. You're playing tit for tat. We're the only country with this many guns. Of course, there's more shootings. Is it tragic? Is it something that shouldn't happen? Yes. but this bar graph is low hanging fruit in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's also easy to manipulate outrage with graphs, like
Yeah.
especially bar graphs, because you could theoretically draw a bar graph, and you could put the top, item on your bar graph list is like two things, and it
Yeah.
can take up half, the entire page, and then the bottom, the next thing will be one, and it's tremendously less. So like most people don't fucking read, right? Most people don't look into it, right? They just see, wow, big thing, little thing. This means we must do something. That, there was a manipulation that goes into that. I didn't see the Bernie Sanders graph. I'm just talking about graphs in general.
Yeah.
Be aware of how statistics can be manipulated by images and whatnot. They're not actually like good representations of the actual statistics themselves.
Yeah, just like when they poll college campuses on who do you want to vote for, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, and it's a billion blue-haired liberals going to UCLA. Oh gee, I wonder who all these 18-year-olds are voting for.
Right, exactly. It's like it's rigged statistics in a way. Let's get this is not tweets of the week here, but I have a couple interesting tweets just to give you guys. I'm sure everybody listening to Demand, they're probably pro-gun, right? So there's not many people we're gonna have to convert here, but let's just see what people are saying in like in the conversation. Let me bring this up. This was an interesting tweet that I saw someone that I know who is. Oh, can you see it, Cap? No, right?
No.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. So this is something that someone I know who I guess you could say they are a friend of mine, but they're on the left. They shared this, and this is a tweet by Christensen, and he says 26 years ago, a gunman entered Dunblane Primary School in Scotland, killing 16 kids and a teacher. The UK government responded by enacting tight gun control legislation. In the 9,400 plus days since, there have been a total of 0 school shootings in the UK. Now, if you read that, you go, wow, gun control worked.
Big number.
However, let's go to Christensen's second part of the tweet. You may well ask, were there mass school shootings before Dunblane? Answer, no. But the fact that the UK government took action after one event shows what I consider to be decisive action. Gun control clearly made it less likely to happen again. And that's the whole point. So, I mean,
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Christian doesn't know what gun control measures are put in place for places like New York. All the loopholes, not all the loopholes, all the hoops I had to jump through to get my pistol permit because I'm a law-abiding citizen and I didn't want to buy a black market gun.
Right. I mean,
that was all gun control.
Yeah,
it took me 11 months to get one gun. How much more control do you want?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're making a very technical argument here, right? I'm going to go ahead and I guess this point needs to be made because this went right over the person that I know. Very smart person, went right over his head. This person is trying to say that they're trying to use as an example of how gun control works. But there was no events like this that occurred before the one random event that occurred that made them pass legislation. Mm-hmm. He's then pointing to this one random event as having worked. Like this one random event occurred, we passed laws, the laws worked to prevent these events from occurring again. But you had no evidence that these events never happened before.
Yeah.
You have no evidence.
Before the gun control, there were still no school shootings.
I could equally then manipulate you as a person and be like, there was no mass shootings and we had all these gun control restrictions. A mass shooting occurred. We repealed all gun laws and no mass shootings occurred. Therefore, no gun restrictions and no gun laws created this, it proves my point because that is what happened. That's essentially what this guy is doing. That is the stupidest fucking argument I've ever heard in my life. And he's making it, not me. He's making it himself. And other people who are making a gun restriction point are arguing that. Like I said, this was shared by someone I made. I mean, I think also this shows how different culture, first of all, right? In Scotland. We were talking about culture before. This is a cultural mental health thing, right? You could use this same argument for America. Were there mass shootings in 1930? Were there mass shootings in 1940 or 50 or 1970? No. What was different around then? Question to you.
Good moral good morals and positive culture, American culture. Yeah.
Were the morals
None of this
perfect?
woke bullshit.
Right? Were the morals
Yeah.
perfect? No, they weren't
No.
perfect, right? There was racism, there was this, there was that, but culture was different.
But even at the height of the racism, were there mass racial shootings?
Oh, they were, but they were the government doing them. You know,
But
what is
there
that?
was no random shooter walking into
No, right.
a black-owned business and shooting up the place. I'm sure there was on a small scale, but
Right,
not,
but
you know,
not
what
the way you
happened in
see
Texas.
here, right? Every week, you know, there was the mass shooting of that the National Guard did to those students at that school. I forget what it's called. There's the famous image of the girl putting the rose in the National Guard guy's barrel, you know. So there was mass shootings, right? But like I said before, it was the government who was doing it.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
that don't count.
No, it doesn't. Because what's happening right now is, you know, private citizens are doing these mass shootings, and the government's come and tell you, hey, we got to take your guns because you are not responsible enough to hold them anymore as an individual because people are doing bad things. I don't have all the answers to this problem. I'm sure you don't either, but it's obvious to me that something is wrong in this society. It's sick. It's rotten to the core. Yeah. And that is why this is occurring. For you to go, I mean, how crazy is it? Dude, bro, how crazy is it for you as a person to go to a school of little tiny babies and kill them?
Yeah.
That's not a normal person. I remember
sick.
And what happened the week before with you know, with the guy who shot the supermarket. I mean, I couldn't believe Chris Murphy. He said, you know, this is not a mental health thing. I mean, for you to say that it's not a mental health thing for someone to commit and act
mental.
like that. Yeah, that's you are mentally insane if you don't think that targeting black people in a supermarket to make a point that there's not something mentally wrong with you. You are not only mentally ill making that point, you also sound like a racist because you're throwing cover for the guy who did that.
Yeah.
And then this is just as bad. These are children, man. There's something wrong with people that do this.
I always point out the fact that there is a ban on assault weapons. There is gun control measures. What is more gun control going to do? All right. The Texas shooter broke a plethora of Texas gun laws. And you talk to any blue state bubble living, you know, brainwashed NPC, they believe Texas is Red Dead Redemption, the Wild West. Everybody's out there with 6 shooters just blowing each other away 24/7. There's gun control measures that this shooter broke in Texas. What is more gun control going to do? I always give this example. Now, it's hard to imagine to be someone so sick and demented that they would go into a school and shoot babies. But okay, there's a psychopath. He bought a gun illegally, some back alley, some loophole, whatever, stole it, comes to you. You're going to take me to a place to kill people or I'm going to kill you. So you take him to a place. There's 2 rooms. Room A is 100 people, but 25 people in that room are concealed carrying guns. Room B is 100 people. No one is armed. No police, no security. It's a gun-free zone. No matter how sick and demented you truly are, you're always going to pick room B because there's nobody that's going to fight back. Right. We could talk about how this is a mental health problem, but we can also talk about what a soft target is. The big bully in school picks on the skinny little kid, not the jock with 6-pack abs bench pressing 220 at the age of 12. That kid's not getting bullied. The little nerdy asthmatic kid who can't fight back gets bullied because they are a soft target. These mass shootings don't happen at NRA rallies. These mass shootings don't take place in police stations. They take place in schools and churches where there's virtually 0 guns. And on top of the fact, I don't know about in Texas because there's the stand your ground laws out there, but in New York, I could promise you, if I had a gun in a school and YouTube, the world, no, I'm not bringing any guns to school. If I was carrying,
hypothetical.
Yes, this is hypothetical. If I was carrying and I was picking up my niece or nephew in school and a school shooting took place and I killed the shooter and I had a gun in the school and stopped it, I would get in trouble. We
you're going
learned
to
this
jail in
when
New
we
York,
had,
yeah.
yeah, we learned this when we had Larry Sharp on the show, that if you are outside of my house and somebody is beating you with a baseball bat and I use my gun to stop it, I get in trouble. If I prevent the attack with my gun before he even gets to beat you with the baseball bat, it's not that I stopped an assault. I assaulted him with a weapon and then I get arrested.
Yeah.
How much more gun control do you want? You can't even defend yourself in certain states.
Yeah. I mean,
Rant
on top
over.
of that, there's over 30,000 gun laws on the books in the United States of America. We live in a violent world, right? And it's insane to me to see people, especially the people who are so concerned with their rights, their right
and
to
their
this,
safety,
their right to that. They are advocating against their very right to self-defense. And that's their innate human right, whether you believe in God or not. You as a living organism on planet Earth, you have a right to defend yourself the same way a fucking deer does, or a lion, or a shark, or whatever. Every single creature has a right to defend itself, and it will if it has the means to do so. It doesn't matter what you are, what you look like. Everybody has that right. People, though, have been convinced to argue against that, right? And it's wild because then people like me and you are arguing for them, like on their behalf, like we're trying.
And we look like the aggressor.
Yeah, like I'm trying to defend some, here we go. I'm going to show another example here.
Well, hold on a second. These people who, my point for what you were saying is these people, they're the weakest common denominator in our country. There's people who have been victimized, truly victimized, not social media or words or violence victimized. Truly, my sophomore year of high school, me and 3 friends were jumped by 25 people with stickball bats, got our asses beat. We were actual victims of assault. Things changed for all of us after that. I'm a registered gun owner now. I will never allow myself to be victimized like that again. Other people, weaker people, bury their head in the sand and go, oh no, that's never going to happen again. Oh no, just by the grace of God, that's never going to happen again. That's how you become another victim again.
Ban the stickball bats.
Yeah, ban stickball bats. There we go.
Yeah.
Name of the episode.
People are advocating against their own rights, and like it is again, we'll go back to culture, right? There was a culture of dependency and conformity that has taken root in this country, and it is a threat to each person's individual liberty. Tie it all the way back to the Mises Caucus, right? They have made that point before, right? That if we're going to fix anything and if we're going to like make things better here, culture is important. Because right now, every episode me and you are doing, right? Every week, we're now starting to focus on just one topic because the conformists are changing the thing that they're driving the narrative. That's like the public discourse, unfortunately, right? And then we come here and we like, we discuss
break it down.
Yeah. Every week we're talking about one topic now because they are being manipulated into being outraged over one thing almost seemingly every week or so or month. There's the card we've been sharing. We have a left because you should make fun of these people. It's the I support the current thing, customer loyalty card. And it's Biden, Harris, Black Lives Matter, COVID, Ukraine, the pink hat for abortion. And now, we could stamp another one on there. I said it a couple weeks ago to the group, I in our little group chat with the Patriot Podcast Network on Roku, I sent that and I was like, what do you guys think's next? This was a couple weeks ago. Right. And, just fucking around with them, see what they had to say. And I think some people said COVID again and whatnot, but I didn't even think of this. Gun control, right? It's not on the card yet. And here it is. It's the new thing now that I support the current thing. You got to put your fucking profile frame on there and whatnot. It's weird, man. I hate to punch down, but let's punch down at a normal person on Twitter. If this is even a regular person, this is what we were talking about before. Listen to pre-apocalyptic Johnny 64. I don't know how to tell gun nuts this, but your little rifle isn't a deterrence to the government becoming tyrannical. You will never be fighting troops in the street. They'll turn off your water and your bank account, and you'll fold like the good little bitch you are. Talk about the iron law of woke projection here. Look at this, guys. If this guy's even real, Look at his profile picture. He's masked up, virtue signaling. He's accusing you of doing the very thing that he is doing in this tweet. He's saying you're not going to do anything. You're going to fold like a little bitch, because this guy apparently seems to be a little bitch who has folded to the whims of the government. Or, I mean, that is insane. How could you advocate for something like that?
These are, you know,
and real quick, last point. That is pretty much exactly what Canada, going all the way back to them, did to the truckers.
Yeah.
Shut off their water, froze their bank accounts, right? That's what they did to the truckers for peacefully protesting. So he's on the side of the tyranny. I mean, is
that's one of the sheep that, you know, can't wait to live in the pods, eat the bugs, and own nothing and be happy. You know, I mean, that person can't wait to get their pod. The only thing that they don't understand, this goes back to something that angers me is, and I actually tweeted at O'Rourke, Beto O'Rourke, whatever the fuck. He was saying, oh, we can't allow the NRA convention to happen in Texas. I said, why don't you go to it and get an education about what you're talking about? Because, you know, not to be threatening to this little bot Apocalypse Johnny, but when the water gets turned off and when the banks get closed out, that's when the shooting's going to begin.
That's when you need a gun. That's when you need a gun the most.
I hate to tell you, but if I don't have water and you have water and I have the guns and ammo, I now have the water too.
True.
So that's, you want to be post-apocalyptic, Johnny? This is how the apocalypse is going to work, Johnny. I hate to tell you, you know,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Watch 1 to 2 episodes of The Walking Dead. This is how it fucking works.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, even furthermore, if it's like if my water was shut off because I didn't even do anything, you know, you think I'm going to be happy about that? You know, like, and so, yeah,
you're going to create a lot of angry people with guns.
Right. Right.
You know, that's not a good chemical mixture that you want to take place either. That's very volatile.
Right. And then, you know, again, who's going to come to, you know, shut off your water or close down your bank account,
guns.
Or like, you know, me with a gun, you know, who's going to come to stop me with a gun? Guess what? A guy with a gun, right? Except it's going to be a government guy with a gun. So, I mean, that is the philosophical argument, debate, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that is occurring here that I don't really think people on the left understand is that they're arguing against a good person, moral person's right to self-determination and being able to protect themselves or whatever. They are arguing in favor of Marxism, communalism, government controls everything and does everything, and you will submit. Literally, you will submit and you won't do shit about it.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, three things. One thing I saw, one tweet on Twitter was, and I should have saved it, was we need to ban all guns, even for police. Yeah, because that's gonna fucking work out real well. If that's your stance, you better get in your pod now and lock that door, because there's no hope for you. 2, the one thing that which you're kind of touching upon right now is the left doesn't understand the only way to enforce gun control and gun laws is with guns. It's the only way to do it. It's the only, there's no other way around it.
They're advocating for violence with guns.
Yeah. Just your team has the guns. Daddy government, you know, has
like
the
with
guns
everything
now.
else. They only want power. That's it. But go ahead, you were gonna make another point.
How I kind of lost my train of thought, but once again, to the uneducation of guns and not knowing, where was I going with this?
Guns, gun control, they want power. You lost it.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So move on.
No worries.
At least I got 2 good points out of it.
That's fine. That's pretty good for you. 2 points. two out of 3 ain't bad. So, I mean, we talk a little bit about Canada. We talk, you know, everybody obviously knows the situation, you know, that occurred and whatnot. So, let's come to America. You know, there's a guy, you know, he's in charge here, kind of. I guess you could say, probably really not, but somewhat. His name is Joe Biden. He's the president.
Guy who reads the teleprompter.
So why should I care that Justin Trudeau wants to ban handguns? Well, like I said before, they probably talked, right? Look what President Biden, I'll play this now. We'll maybe talk about this a little bit as well, but like, just bear with us here because the president was in front of the helicopter that he rides on. So the audio is a little bit kind of loud and suspect, but let's hear what he has to say and I'll read it after. Oops, sorry, I got to restart.
When I first started doing hearings on the issue of what rational gun laws should be, it was during a period when I was a senator and the death rate was going up. Not that many more people were being shot, but the death rate was up. And I went, I think it was, I'm not sure, I think it was Hahnemann Hospital in New York, whatever the largest trauma hospital is. And I sat with a trauma doc. And I asked him, I said, what's the difference? Why are so many people, not that many more people were being shot? This is now 20 years ago, or 25 years ago. I said, why are they dying? And they showed me a x-ray. He said, a 22 caliber bullet will lodge in a lung, and we can probably get it out, may be able to get it and save the life. A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body. So the idea of these high caliber weapons is there's simply no rational basis for it in terms of about self-protection, hunting.
All right, so let me stop this for just another thing. So, I mean, if you couldn't hear, I will read it briefly for you, and then we'll get into it. President Joe Biden said that a 9mm bullet blows the lung out of a body while discussing options on gun legislation on Monday, prompting some to suggest he was calling for handguns to be banned. Biden made the remarks speaking to reporters outside the White House day after he and First Lady visited Uvalde, Texas, and comforted families grieving for the 19 children who died. The president has urged Congress to pass broader gun measures, such as a new ban on assault weapons or universal background checks on gun purchases. On Monday, Biden said the assault weapons ban of the 1990s had significantly cut down mass murders. That is not even true in itself. So let's tie this all back together, right? Why did I point out Justin Trudeau and what Canada was doing and et cetera? I mean, Canada wants to ban handguns, and now President Biden is on here talking about weapons of war and this and that. And he's talking about 9mm bullets that they're bad because they blow out the lung. I mean, ridiculous conversation to have in the meantime, but language is powerful. They're always trying to subvert language. They're now essentially trying to convince the NPCs and the sheep that a handgun or a 9mm bullet is a weapon of war, which is a bullshit term to begin with anyway, which they invented. Weapon of war, assault weapon, all things that don't exist. Any weapon is a weapon of war, you could theoretically say. Back in the day, we fucking used to hit people in the head with stones. Those are weapons of war. Now we use nukes. Those are weapons of war. I'd like those to be banned from the government, right? This is the goal. This is what us gun nuts are always telling you. It's not about banning a weapon of war. It's about banning all guns so that you cannot oppose the government from disarming you. The most common way any law-abiding gun owner defends themselves is with a handgun. And why is that? As you are a, legal law-abiding handgun, it's not practical to carry an AK-47 around everywhere. It really ain't. It ain't even practical to carry most handguns around because they're gigantic. And they're not comfortable. And if you're like a fat person or something, them shits hurt when you're concealed carrying them, right? So you need like a little tiny pistol that will do the job and whatnot. So no, they want to target you from defending yourself. They want to take your rights away. Go ahead.
Let's also
talk about show and tell here. So
yeah, let's also talk about how 9mm, and I love how Skaggs and I had the same idea, is the most popular, widely used handgun ammunition for self-defense. A lot of people, 22 is for all the virtue signaling gun nuts out there. Very tiny little,
This is a 22. Sorry for those who are listening. This is a 22. This is a 9mm. Yeah, sorry.
It's what I have here is a 9mm. And people don't even understand that this isn't the whole thing that comes out of the gun. It's just a little copper piece up top. This is the most widely popular use for concealed carry gun owners, the 9mm. It's easier to shoot. There's less recoil. They're more available. And it's no surprise to me that that's what Joe Biden's talking about, the 9mm. You could put a much bigger hole in somebody with a 45 or a 357, but they're not as common. Someone said online that Joe Biden said that that no rational person needs to own any of these popular weapons So the unpopular ones are okay then? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. So real quick, let me make a point here now, right? Because he says no rational person should own any of these weapons, right? So let me show you the difference between two sorts of bullets that I own. However, they have the same
Actual
caliber.
high capacity magazine.
No, two bullets, right?
Round.
So this is a 9mm. Sorry again to those who are listening. This is a 9mm full metal jacket. What does that mean? The entire thing is surrounded by metal from top to bottom, right?
With another metal core inside.
Yes. This is a bullet, a 9mm bullet that I would carry. And this is a hollow point 9mm bullet. Now, what is the difference between these two? Obviously, let's see. Sorry, it's kind of inverted. See there?
There you go. It's focused.
Yeah. See there. Right. One is hollow. The other one is not. If you were to shoot someone with this, with the full metal jacket, chances are it's going right through them and into another person, perhaps injuring someone you did not intend to shoot. If you shoot someone with this, it is going to expand when it hits them and stop and cause severe damage to that person and that person alone. That person most likely being the person you intended to shoot because they were probably threatening your life. I'm a rational gun owner, right? When I carry these because if God forbid someone were ever trying to kill me and I had to shoot them, again, this is hypothetical YouTube, I would prefer only that person to die, not another random person that had nothing to do with it in the background or ricochets or some shit like that. Does that sound rational to you?
Well, yeah, a little bit, but they don't want you to, defend yourself.
Well, also that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is rational, right? That is my thought process.
It is.
And that is most gun owners' thought process when it comes to a very popular round. They carry the safest round possible.
You use that for self-defense instead of the full metal because someone breaks into your house. You're tired, you're sleepy. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You let off a few rounds. Now, where you live, it's not that big of a deal because your neighbors are a million miles away. Where I live, they're right next door. This can go through my wall and through another wall and hit my neighbor going to the bathroom next door. The hollow point, when it hits the wall, it's also going to stop.
Yeah, right. That's the intention to stop once it hits the thing it's intended for. These rounds, like there is a thought process, a rational thought process, as much as he wants to say there is not, that most gun owners go through when they think of these things. Right. That is every gun owner I have spoken to knows about this. And that is the way they behave and do. Let's show you a bullet, however, that the government uses. Right. This is a 5.56 NATO round. Oh, yeah. That same NATO, the one that gives the guns to Ukraine to do mass shootings and whatnot. It is coined and termed after them. There is no hollow point aim. I guess theoretically you could get probably a hollow point 5.56 cap, right? But these are the bullets that they use.
For this size, I don't know.
So, I mean, it is just bizarre that it's really not bizarre. I know what they're doing. They're trying to take away your right to defend yourself or whatnot. I mean, that they're targeting this and not this, which is what they use primarily in the military. Our service members use that. I mean, it's right there. How much we could go on and on and on and spell it out for you guys and everything. That's what it is. They're just, people are not educated on this shit, by large. They're preying upon stupidity.
Yeah, they are. Two things. This 9mm is not going to rip your lungs out either. This horrific trauma story that Joe Biden was talking about is completely false. It's inaccurate. Watch a number of gang violence videos, probably from a Democratic ran city like Chicago or LA. And you could see these people get shot 5-6 times with these wildly all over the place, and they live. 50 Cent got shot 9 times with this thing, and he's still here kicking. This is the high capacity round that they're talking about. Now, I live in New York. I can't have any AR-15. So, Chris, how do you have one? Well, because there's stupidity amongst the people who are putting gun control laws in, making them laws, don't even actually understand guns themselves. I have a particular rifle that is completely legal and available to every New Yorker. No permit needed. You just need to pass your background check. Okay, it's called the Ruger Mini 14.
You can watch our doomed review.
Yes, we have a doomed review on it. It is a wooden rifle. It has a magazine and it holds the 5.56. That one is completely illegal in the state of New York. There are other versions of the Ruger Mini where they have collapsible stocks, pistol grips, 30, 40, 50, 60 round magazines that attach to it, scopes, compressors, bigger barrels, longer barrels, forward grips, bump stocks, all this stuff that the government wants to scare you on, but it's all the same gun. There's no difference. They all shoot the same bullet. They all hold the same magazine. They all have the same rate of fire. They all have the same trigger mechanism. The only reason why mine is legal is because it looks like a wooden hunting gun, where it's no different than any of these weapons of war that they love to bring up.
So you're making the argument that they're so stupid they don't even know what they're talking about, you know?
Yes.
So I no, I don't think so. Every piece of restriction and legislation and whatever is intended to take away your right to own a firearm. We've made this point a million fucking times. We don't want to make it anymore, right? They know exactly what they're doing. They're just, what can we get away with right now? And when something like this awful fucking tragedy happens, where children are murdered, people get emotional. When people are emotional, I hate to say it, but people get irrational as well. And when you're irrational, you're more willing to election. Right. You're more willing to support something that goes against your very own interest, because you're like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, Skaggs, about your Second Amendment rights or your right to defend yourself. All I want to see right now is do something, right? That was actually something they've been saying. When are we going to do something? Right. I don't know if you've seen that. Like, they were all saying this, all these politicians. Enough is enough. Enough is enough, right? What are we doing? Chris Murphy was up there. What are we doing? When are we going to do something? What are we doing? What are we doing? Well, what is he talking about, right? No, he's talking about banning all guns. That is what he's talking about, right? Do something. They're always going to be something to do until they completely repealed the Second Amendment. I think the Second Amendment doesn't even need to exist. Everybody's right to fucking defend themselves is, again, naturally inherent.
Divine right, yeah.
By you being a fucking living organism, that is your right. But that is the world we live under, right? So that is what is going on here. They're just playing on emotions to try and take away your rights to defend yourselves, so that they could just continue to push this fucking agenda, more government, more tyranny, more World Economic Forum, you know, things that they want to get passed, that you're coming down the pipeline, man. I'm not smart enough to understand all of it 100%, but it's coming and it ain't good.
Oh yeah. And if it looks like a trap, smells like a trap. One last topic I want to get into on this, you know, gun issue is, when are we going to do something? But why is something have to be taking guns away from law-abiding citizens? Now, I understand the establishment, the World Economic Forum, has this agenda, and armed citizens is not going to help that agenda come to completion. But there's other sides to this debate. There is the mental illness aspect. There is the aspect that a majority of these mass shooters are on FBI watch lists, but yet they have guns. And yet the FBI, which I don't think they do anything other than try to fuck us over at this
political organization.
Yeah. They somehow always let these shooters slip on by. When are we going to, and this is something that, I mean, it's ridiculous to say it in this way, but it has to be said. I'm finally glad people are starting to scream about, why aren't schools becoming safer? You used to work at a bank. You understand how a bank works. There's one way in, one way out. Now, I understand there can't be like that for a school, for fire hazards and stuff like that. But why aren't we changing schools? Why is the Capitol secured the way it is, with multiple entrances and exits, but a school is not? All the politicians get that, but none of these schools, none of these churches, none of these soft target areas get this type of protection. One armed guard, all you need. 1, 2 armed teachers, concealed carry teachers. Students don't need to know about it. Changes everything.
Like that analogy you made before with the 2 rooms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you knew the principal and 2 teachers and 1 security guard all had guns, I don't think you're going to run through the school with an AR-15 blasting away.
So I made this point to somebody I know that I went to high school with, right? And they were trying to make this point of, like, you know, they don't want teachers to carry guns and whatnot. And I'm like, schools are gun-free zones for the most part in most of the country, by and large.
Soft targets.
Right? So they are soft targets, you know. I am not advocating that it should be made mandatory that a teacher needs to carry a gun. Most teachers are kind, loving women who are just not a mean bone in their body. I hate to generalize, right? But they're good, soft people who don't want to own a gun. That is fine. The mere possibility that someone could be concealed carrying is a deterrent on of itself, right? And that is a completely free deterrent. There is no taxes we need to take from anyone to fund new stuff to build to defend the school or anything like that. So would you like the libertarian argument of how to defend schools? Let teachers be able to defend themselves. Don't force them to do it. Don't pass a law that you need to allocate more money that you're taking through theft, which is taxation, to pay for it. Just allow people freedom. Freedom will solve your problem. There will be a deterrent of, there is a possibility someone in here could be fucking packing. I might think twice about what I'm going to do. Is that going to solve or stop every violent act that occurs? No, that is not the real world. And if someone's telling you that it is, they are full of shit and they're selling you a fucking Marxist utopia, which is not possible, but it will do something. So if you want, like, what are the two doing men? Do you guys have any answers? Yeah, I do. It's freedom. And it's probably the same, answer that the Mises Caucus would have. It's like, give people the freedom to fucking do what they want, and they will help you figure out the situation. It will become a little bit safer by allowing teachers the freedom to choose if they'd like to carry or not. Like, if I was a teacher, you bet your fucking ass I'd be carrying in school to protect my students in case, God forbid, some fucking psychopath like that came in there. And I'll tell you what, who ain't going to protect you, as we could even use in this fucking example. My thoughts on the police. They fucked up big time here. Not only did the police fuck up, but you mentioned them before, the FBI fucked up because they had their kind of like their eyes on this guy before, and then I'm sure most people have seen everything that has to do with this Uvalde shooting. The cops fucked up. They were
arresting parents. They were saving their own children.
Parents from trying to go in there to do it, and some new news came out actually right before we started recording that there was one detail in this whole thing.
The teacher who's saying the timeline's false?
No, maybe, but there was a door apparently left ajar. That is untrue. The cops lied about it. Now, because they've been called out on it, they don't want to, that department doesn't want to like take place in negotiations of like investigation anymore. Like they essentially like don't want to, they're not going to, we have to protect ourselves because we're going to get in a lot of trouble.
Do you want to know that local police department 2 months ago, go check their Facebook page, had active school shooter training in that very school 2 months ago. And all that training, all that tax funded training, they stole your money and they still let your kids fucking die.
Yeah, they did. And they also prevented you as the parent from going in there and doing something about it yourself. Bear in mind, these are the same people, because at the end of the day, as I have said many times, they are simply agents of the state. These are the same men and women who are going to come and take your guns, right? So you, as what was his name before? Fucking whatever, post-apocalyptic Johnny is arguing, me and you should give up our guns and the police should only have the guns so that they cannot protect me when some crazy person comes to kill me, or even worse, my child. And this is good. That's essentially what
Fold like the little bitch you are.
Yeah. Now, again, post-apocalyptic Johnny, I'm sure he probably means well. However, he has been psyoped into doing what the government and the state wants.
Also on the county, he's probably a bot, but
yeah, he could be a bot. Yeah, that's true too. And points back to the larger problem with Twitter and whatnot. There's a lot of people saying these things on there that are influencing thoughts and discourse and whatnot, so yeah, man, I mean, I'm sorry, I gotta say it, but if you are a person who is like advocating against my right to defend myself or any other person's right to defend myself, you're my enemy. I'm sorry, you really are, because that is what it is at this point. We're living in an insane time with insanely violent people. Now more than ever, it is imperative that you defend yourself. I don't care what you look like, what your ideology is like. Trans people should be carrying. Black people should be carrying, right? Because there's fucking psychopath white nationalist people shooting them up, right? So you should be carrying everywhere and defend yourself.
And go back to the episode with Ken Good. Look at all the bail reform. if you attack me with a knife and stab me with a knife or threaten me, you're out 24 hours later. But don't arm yourself. Don't protect yourself. Don't you dare do that. Let that man come back in your house and stab you again.
Yeah.
That's really the viewpoint of the gun. If you take gun control and you take bail reform and all these new law, letting criminals out early and stuff like this, you take all that together, what it really boils down to is you let that criminal come back in your house and fuck you up all over again. And if you don't, you're the bad guy. We're coming after you.
Lay down and die.
Yeah.
That is the official position of the Democrat Party right now, essentially.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to do tweets of the week, or we want?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's end it on a high note here.
If you want to morbid episode, we'll talk about tweets of the week.
Call it that.
Yeah.
Let's go on over. So I know. So I mean, all these apply, right, Cap?
Yep.
All right. So let's start off with mine here.
I don't even know what my first one was anymore, but I know the second
been a while.
one.
All right.
Yeah.
So we got here Joe Lemon. I would rather get an abortion than have a brown child who ends up being adopted by white evangelicals. It is not a kindness to children of the global majority to give them to people who will traumatize them with self and ancestral hatred. And abortion is an act of love. Nice.
That's low. That I don't think that person is a bot, because there is a lot of ridiculous thought process that goes into saying something like that.
See what Cat Turd. I love Cat Turd had to say. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is one of these woke people.
Look, I know a family who is obviously a white family that was very well off, and they adopted a black child after they had their own children. And I can promise you he is not traumatized with self-ancestral hatred. He drives a Corvette. Okay. That kid is living his best fucking life.
These woke people, I mean, this is part of the whole cultural decay that we were mentioning earlier. I'm like, you fucking think that you're like virtuous here after saying that? You're something's wrong with you. All right, let's go on to the next one. This is yours, so I'll let you get into it.
Let's see. No one gets offended faster than a white liberal on behalf of a minority who wouldn't have ever been offended in the first place. I say this all the time. White liberals are the worst. They are the problem. White people are the problem.
I guess I guess they are correct. I guess at the end of the day, they are correct. I love Blair. This is from Blair White also.
Yeah, Blair White.
She's great. She's also a narrative breaker because she's a trans woman as well. Used to be a man. I like how he got also James Lindsay underneath there. I'm from the bourgeois vanguard and I'm here to help. He's making a play on I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So yeah, that is a good point. Let's go on to my next one. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, I remember this now. At this point, trans people should be allowed to call Dave Chappelle the N-word. Yeah.
I saw this.
These are the kind equality people. You know, they're the ones. They're the ones who are in the right, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else need to be said on this?
I think trans people should be allowed to be racist. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at this person's, you know, their Twitter handle.
Ukraine flag, trans flag.
The pronouns she/her, the trans flag. Yeah, you know, it's all there. White woman, you know, there it is.
Yeah.
It's all the key factors. And then here we got one.
My favorite tweet.
Me and you had a laugh about this one before we even started the episode.
Yep. From Michael Scaglione at Skags89, breaking my Twitter sabbatical to say one thing. If you are advocating for the restriction of the rights of an individuals to defend themselves in the wake of another mass shooting, get fucked. I loved this tweet because I was scrolling through Twitter. You had made this big deal that you weren't going to be on Twitter for an entire week. And I'm like, here's this motherfucker. I'm saving it for accountability, but I love how it was just to say, get fucked.
Yeah, fair enough. You know, I couldn't help myself in that regards. It was, you know what actually happened that day, man? I mean, as much as I wanted to take a break from everything, dude, like people start like texting me and be like, hey, oh my God, did you see what happened? What do you think? And I just like 4 or 5 people. I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to take a break.
People come running into my office and I'm just, God. Yeah, I know.
Part of the responsibility of preventing a doomed nation from
Yeah,
occurring,
I guess so.
So yeah, that was, I think, the only tweet I maybe did. So I did break my own little thing at the same time. But like I said at the beginning of this, I did have a 55% downcrease in screen time. One thing I think Apple has done well is that tool of seeing how much you are using your phone. I think everybody should use that as a valuable tool. See how much you are actually using your phone to hold yourself accountable. Like, because you might not realize, man, you might be on a
there's
phone
hours of Instagram on mine. I know for a fact.
8 hours. Like some people might be on the phone for 8 hours a day. That is how long you normally work and sleep. And then you're supposed to have this, what is it, 8, 8, and 8, right? So you might spend 8 on the phone. That's wild. So I think that's a tool everybody should use. Just a random point there. I think that's a good point where we can end it.
All right, Doom Nation. If this episode made you want to drink, swing on by 13 Stripes Winery and use our promo code Doom for 10% off your purchase. Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We sure did. We're glad to be back. We have a few things cooking for the future. And as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Peace out.